Hello everyone, welcome to Existential Gamers Live. We are back again with Retro December. We're playing, if I can get this working, we're playing Parasite Eve 1. And I'm joined today by Mr. Nasota.
Hello.
It's good to see you again, sir, or hear from you, sir. It's been so long.
Been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
At least 2 months.
Yeah. You know what? That's a weird thing too, because like perspective of time. There are times where I feel like life is going by really quick. And that's the common thing that most people say. But there are times where I'm like, God, it feels like it's taking forever. Which I'm not complaining, but at the same time, it's just like, this is going on for a good while. But
yeah, I think it comes in the context of like what you're viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you look at like eras of your life of like what's going on with it, there are some eras that just like they just they roll on and on.
Yeah, and it's just I was watching a video where they talked about that, but I'll get more into this. I wanted to talk about this part of the game really quick. I played only a little bit of this game when I was a kid, and I never got far in it because I was a dumb kid, and these kind of games made my brain hurt and go, I don't want to play this anymore. RPG games. I just couldn't play RPG games as a kid. Like, my ADHD brain was just like, nah, too much work. I need to move on to the next thing. But this game had an amazing intro. What'd you say?
When I played games, I refused to read to the point where if you asked me, like, did I actually know how to read, or did I just recognize, like, what letters made words and what those words sounded like, I would probably have to tell you, I just recognized the word and what it was supposed to sound like, but I couldn't draw it in my head. So, like, I could read a sentence and I could read a book. But if you ask me, like, okay, what did you imagine in this moment? I'd look at you, like, blank-eyed and go, what the hell are you on about? Like, it took me years to develop that skill.
Yeah. It's almost like a development, aphantasia, right? Like, it's almost like you kind of start out at that, like, for some people they start out like that and they build that mind's eye after a bit, right? Like, eventually you acquire that ability where you can start imagining things. 'Cause right now I'm studying Spanish, and I'm trying to, like, understand that more. And there are times where I don't think of, like, what the word actually is. I'm more of just reading the word. Like, it's kind of like you're looking at a foreign language and you've never studied it before. You're just looking at the words. Your brain just pronounces the letters but doesn't really understand what it is yet, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, I can read it, but I don't know what it means. It's like...
Yeah, it's the same thing with, like, medical terminology. Like, you know what the prefix, the base word and the suffix is, but it takes a while until it really, like, clicks into your mind about, like, what is this word that you are saying, and, like, what are the consequences of this particular thing.
Yeah. Sorry, my controller's not working for some reason. Just trying to fix it. It's always something, guys. Always something. I need to get a new cable. It says my controller is connected. Let me reset it really quick. I can skip through it. It's fine. I should have saved state though. Oh my god, I hate when it does this. I have to go all the way back. Okay. Emulators. You guys get to see where I put all my stuff. Ooh. Oop, wrong one. All the legal stuff.
I think, especially if it's, like, closer or over 20 years old, I think emulating should be, like, not even really a blink in the eye. Like, what the fuck ever. What the fuck ever.
Like, look, if you're gonna remake the game, yeah, that can be its own thing, you're selling it, but that's why I hate the whole copyright thing. It's like, look, after a while, stop trying to milk it. Should be free to everybody.
I was talking about that with one of my friends, because, like, there's kind of a stale patch in games right now. And it's like, one of the frustrations is you have all of these remasters, and they're awesome. But the problem with remasters is really you generally just update the graphics and maybe some of the controls a little bit. Thankfully, like for example, Square Enix with the remake, or I guess the remaster, I'm not sure which one you would consider like Final Fantasy VII, but I would say that's a bit more of a new game. They've definitely updated it, it's not the same style. And especially with Resident Evil as well, with their more recent like actual updates where they're like, hey, we kind of like this style, but we think we could do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot better than just purely remaking a game. You can purely remake the game, but you do also then kind of put yourself in a box because you can only go so far.
No, I agree with that too. It's kind of like with the TV show stuff too. Like, how do you feel about that? Okay, say if somebody remade a game of yours, like a game that you liked a lot, right? And they didn't do it justice. Would you be really upset? Like, I mean, of course you'd be upset. Like, you know, I mean, most people would be upset. But to the point where you'd wanted them to stop, you know, working on games in general. Like, hey, just stop working on, you know.
And I say no because ultimately, the game in its original form still exists. It's like when someone adds to a series, or to a movie, or to a show, or to a book, and they're like, "Oh, they ruined it." It's like the original parts are still there; they haven't been touched. Like if you're adding or if you're remaking the original story and getting rid of the old one, it's like, well, you can still get an older original copy, so you're fine. What is with this weird puritanistic view that we have? Like,
ugh. Yeah, I don't. It's like with the whole Cowboy Bebop thing. Like, I get it. I understand why, you know, a lot of people don't like it. But I enjoyed it. And then, like, people were so mad that they wanted it to be canceled and everything. It's just like, why? Why? Just let it. You still have your show. The show is not gone.
Yeah, you still have your original. It's like when they, because I know Netflix also did a live action, Full Metal Alchemist. You still have the original Full Metal Alchemist. Why are you freaking out?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
I guess even, like, I don't know if you agree with this, but even, like, looking back at, like, the Sonic fiasco thing where they had to remake the character and everything, it's like, yeah, that's cool that they did that, but honestly, like, Jesus Christ, that, that was probably something pain in the butt for them.
Definitely, well, so that one is definitely a little different, because if it's just changing how the character looks, it definitely slowed them down, but there's a difference between it when it's already been out versus having not released it yet, right?
Well, but what I don't know. It's just weird because then it's like, okay, well, does everybody have to show their stuff so that to get critiqued beforehand so that they can work on it, you know, and fix it for the fans?
That is actually kind of why they release trailers. It's not just for hype, it's also for feedback. Because
well, but that's not what trailers are for. Look, I wouldn't, if we could do that, that'd be great, you know. I wouldn't mind, you know, things getting criticism and, you know, people using that criticism to make it better before it comes out. But
well, they did that with Deadpool. Deadpool's trailer that was leaked wasn't actually technically a trailer, it was test footage. So in some cases, a trailer can be to get feedback. In some cases, it can just be like, oh hey, we're making this thing, like Dune. Dune was not, you know, what's your opinion? Dune, like the trailer for Dune was, hey, we're making this.
Yeah.
And they didn't put part 1 because they knew if they put part 1 that people were going to freak out. But if you know Dune, you know it's like a 6+ book saga. So you should automatically understand that it's not going to be the full story under any circumstance. And HBO is definitely smart enough to recognize that people would rather have a longer theatrical release of multiple installations as opposed to just trying to rush it forward like they did with, you know, Game of Thrones at the very end.
Yeah.
So the Sonic thing I did find kind of interesting. However, I do agree that I didn't really like his design. And if the people
I agree too.
Who were making a movie for, because that's what you do. Some people make a movie for them. But if you're going to make a Sonic movie or a Mario movie or a movie that has a fan base, you really should be making it for the fan base and trying to make sure it's pretty generalized to where people who aren't inherently fans might still be able to enjoy the story or the characters, maybe they even get into it. Which is kind of one of the fundamental flaws of, like, let's say, the original Mario movie. That had nothing connected to anything except the names of the characters.
This escalated very quickly.
Oh, sorry. Well, because I do think it's an interesting conversation. Because we're talking about remakes, remasters, and pulling from source material.
Yeah.
And I don't really think there's anything inherently wrong if people go, oh, I don't really like the way this looks, if you're making something for them. And at least for the Sonic situation, they were making the movie for the people who enjoyed Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't enjoy Sonic, if you don't even know who Sonic is, why would you go through that movie?
Yeah.
Wait,
I have a quick note really quick.
Oh, okay.
I don't really ever see this on the other end, but it's kind of funny that the main character is, like, I guess this is like a date. I guess this guy, like, invited her. But his name...
you're not streaming anymore.
Oh, I'm not? Shoot. Sorry. Oh, that's why I said this escalated really quickly, because the game, like... we started out, like, in an opera, and then suddenly everybody caught on fire, and everyone was just burning, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what has just happened right now? Sorry,
I thought you were talking about our conversation. I was like,
sorry. No, so yeah, in the game, the main character we're playing as, her name is Aya. She's a police officer, and she shows up to this opera, and the guy's like, oh, it's your idea that you wanted to go to the opera. And I just find it funny, because, like, the guy's name is just Man. Like, he has no name. And it's, like, supposed to be her date and everything, and I just find that interesting, that, like, there's no significance to him. He's just some dude that took her out on a date.
We're just moving the plot forward.
She's just like, get the fuck out of here.
Your name is plot point 1.
I don't know. Do you ever see that happen on the other end, though? Like, a dude just, like, going on a date with a girl. I was like, yeah, that's just a girl. That's just no... I mean... in a minor, I feel like in a minor point, like, either they're the damsel in distress, right, or but even then they're at least a little important to the plot, or they're just like a support character, right, like they're there to be supportive. But I've never seen, like, just a girl, I don't know, maybe I haven't seen enough media to really...
You are a replaceable man.
Oh my gosh.
Oh cool, she's floating.
Yeah, this girl was the one burning everybody. She was the actress on the play.
Oh.
You're the only one that seems to be fine. So this is like Squaresoft, which is now Square Enix.
Oh, okay.
This is their, like, Resident Evil clone at the time.
Okay.
And this game's all about sales and parasites and Resident Evil stuff.
So kind of Resident Evil, somewhat like, what was the other game that you love? Oh, Silent Hill-ish in a weird way?
Yeah, it's like Final Fantasy and Resident Evil put together. Like, Square Enix making their own, like, Resident Evil, but it's still like Final Fantasy. Because it's an RPG, Hold up, because I think I can fire them.
Shot in the face.
And it didn't do anything. Taken out of context, I can...
Yeah, that could be really taken. That's like, we're a step away from...
My body!
It's getting hot. That's like, there's some fanfiction here, I think.
I think it's just supposed to show that we're getting magical powers. Like her. I didn't realize there was actually, like, real-time RPG games back in.
Yeah, I'm like, what I've noticed, especially with a lot of PS1 games, there are some really well-designed PS1 games for the time that really haven't ever been, like, touched or updated, or at least the ideas taken and like, asked by the creators, how can we implement this nowadays, right? Because kind of to digress back to a conversation of remakes and remasters. It's like I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at older games and going, I like this idea. How can we use this idea without needing to copy the exact same game and story?
Yeah.
Okay, now there's a little girl on a. Yeah, we are going towards fan fiction, dude. Be careful.
Oh my goodness.
Get weird.
That's terrible.
There's gonna be a doctor coming. That's gonna be a nightmare.
Memories, flashbacks. Funny thing is, I've actually, I originally played the second game of this series before I played the first. So it was very interesting. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go. Look up the stairs to the backstage.
Probably.
This little character. I don't know though. Going back to what you're saying, with like remakes and like just all this like taking previous media and readapting it to a different medium. I don't know. I feel like I just like even like with the Resident Evil movies, like I feel like I can't be angry anymore. I used to be upset because I'm like, God, they could have done better with these movies. And I guess that's why I still understand how these people feel about, adaptations and things like that. But at the same time, I realize now it's just like, look, it's just like DC and Marvel, right? They make so many different versions of the stories, and some people are not gonna like those versions. They're gonna like other versions better. Those versions still exist. This is just what they're just another iteration that somebody's made. Just like Monster Hunter, they made a movie of Monster Hunter. To me, it was absolute garbage, and probably objectively, a lot of people think it's absolute garbage. But at the end of the day, if somebody enjoyed it, can you really fault them? Like,
they didn't need to do, like, here's the thing. They could have had all the same actors, just don't do the time travel jump. It would have been fine.
Yeah. No.
That's all you needed to not do. You didn't need to try to make sense with time travel. All you needed was the characters from a different region hunting monsters. And if anything, you just make the monster they're hunting having destroyed their village. You're done. You're good. You don't need to, we don't know what's going on! Like, you don't need to do that. One of the weirdest things in storytelling is feeling the need to hold the audience's hand because they can't fathom that these are different people from a different time with different rules.
I hear that argument all the time, like, stop treating us like we're stupid and everything. And I agree. Oh, is the music really loud in the game? Let me lower it down.
No, I can't. I muted the sound so you good.
It's alright. I'll fix that really quick. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it. How do I lower the sound? I see sound, but it just lets me change the monitor.
You
might have to lower it in the thing.
Yeah.
I will lower it down right now. Yeah, I realized too, like I had to lower it down on my headphones. Thank you, Misty, though. I appreciate it. Sorry, I couldn't see your name. For some reason, Twitch wants to use that blue that...
Oh, are you doing Twitch again?
Yeah, I'm doing Twitch and YouTube at the same time, but it's just that... You know that blue that like some people use for their Christmas lights? That it's like... It just assaults your eyes? It's that blue. They're using it for Twitch, and I'm like, I can't read that. I don't know what anybody's name is when it's in that kind of blue. Like... See, hopefully that's good. This game has good music, but... I want you guys to hear us talking because there's no voice acting in this game anyways. So don't need to hear the voices. All right, let's get back to that. What were we talking about again? The remakes, right?
Well, remakes, remasters, holding people's hands, storytelling, and like the problem.
Oh, okay, yeah. With the like the argument that don't treat us like we're idiots. I agree. They shouldn't treat us like we're idiots. But at the same time, like. I don't know.
Some people are idiots.
I think it's just the way we go about doing it, We go about it in this like contempt like way where we're just upset that they did a certain thing. And I think that's just become a societal norm now where it's just like okay to be angry because something is not the way you wanted it to be. What the hell is this? Did it just pee all over the floor too? Oh no, that's just the juice coming.
Ugh. That's a creepy creature.
It evolved. Imagine that's what happens when Pokemon evolve. Oh my god.
Oh god.
They just like tear apart. I only have 4 bullets though. Okay, I'm just gonna run around. And it's dead. But I don't know, it's kind of hard because it's like, I get it, but at the same time, like, we're all just like stressing ourselves out over stupid stuff. Like, I don't like this movie, this is dumb, everyone should hate it. It's just like, no, you're right that it deserves criticism because we always want to get better as a human race, right? We always want to improve. That's important.
Well, criticism and judgment is unavoidable in people, I would say.
But the thing is, some people... Go ahead.
Oh, well, I think I know where you're going in the sense of, like, they don't let go to take it too far. They allow the bullshit to, like, permeate in their mind for no good reason.
I'm gonna say, like, even for myself, right? Like, it's even kind of dumb for me because I'm getting frustrated with those people doing that, and it's just, it's kind of ironic because I'm doing exactly what I'm complaining about.
Mm-hmm.
And I should just relax. Honestly, I know how people are. I should expect it. That's just the way it's gonna be. But because at the end of the day, I can only control myself. But it's just a matter of it starts out as criticism, but then there's this tone of judgment that just starts coming in. And again, I get it because it's kind of hard to separate yourself from your, it's hard to separate the I want to say narcissism, but I want to use a more euphemistic word. It's just to separate from the ego. And again, I can't think of what do you think is a better word to say that's not like so like hard cutting? Because at the end of the day, it is the ego. It's yourself. It's your own subjective opinion that's cutting into the objective criticism you're trying to give them.
So, when it comes to criticism, when it comes to judgment, you can't be absolutely objective because you are perceiving information and processing the information and providing feedback. So to some degree you can't avoid some level of bias. Let's do a good one. I think everyone on the planet can always everyone who's watched it can agree with. If you've watched the actual Avatar series, the movie is just atrocious. Subjectively, it is atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
Objectively, not subjectively. But subjectively, it can be atrocious for many reasons. For me, the biggest issue is not really the directing, it's not the graphics, it's not even the storytelling, because they actually try to go through a majority of each episode, but they have to cut it down to like 5 minutes each, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my issue with that is half of them were filler. And my biggest issue is simply how they pronounce the names.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan was so focused on... Ooh, that's fucking freaky. Oh, he's just... Okay. Still, shoot him anyway. That's freaky. But the biggest aspect does really boil down to me to be how they pronounce the names. I cannot watch that movie purely because I watch the names and I go,
well,
how in your right mind did you feel that how they pronounced the names in the show was somehow inaccurate or like whitenized to the point where you needed to like overcorrect and try to pronounce it the way people from other cultures would pronounce it? Because that's what he was trying to do. I understand where it was coming from, but the problem is you don't make the Avatar The Last Airbender movie for the people who haven't watched Avatar The Last Airbender. You make the movie for them.
I totally...
So to kind of get to your question of like, ego might be way too hard of a word. There's definitely an aspect of people allow their enjoyment, the things that they enjoy spending time on, to be affected by other people's perspective of that joy. So if you like doing something, someone else goes, "Wow, you like that." That can, that judgment can affect you. But in the end of the day, I always repeat to myself, at the end of the day, I always repeat to myself the George Carlin phrase, "It's all bullshit and it's bad for you." And as I get older, that phrase has become a bit of a mantra. Because it couldn't be truer. More often than not, things are just unnecessary bullshit and it's bad for you.
Yeah,
I do find like that range indicator kind of cool.
You find the what?
In the fighting. When you're like trying to find things in the range of like your gun.
Oh. That's a little interesting. I like the design of it though.
Obviously, now if it was remade, you would just shoot them like any regular shooting game.
Oh,
unfortunately,
I think they still do it.
Yeah, like you'd have to go out of your way to make that the style, but I like that style. Because if they were to remake it, they would remake it just like any shooter, right? Any over-the-shoulder shooter.
Oh shit. Music though. Damn, I should have put 2 bullets in there.
Good music. I don't need it for a second to hear the music. Also, hello duckies. That's Misty. Hello duckies. The duckies say hi.
The duckies say hi.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah, there's just so many variables.
I wouldn't call it ego, I would call it passion. I'm just trying to think of the right word for it, right? Because
I like passion. I do like that. There was a book I read called The 5 Levels of Attachment. I think I mentioned a lot of things on here. But the 5 levels of attachment, and they just talk about how it goes from like the first level is the authentic self, where because like you said, you can't really be 100% objective. Objective. There's always gonna be a little bit of yourself in it, right? Authentic self is just like without attachment to something. There's just like there's little attachment. It's merely you just have a opinion on something without really any like say if I watched the Monster Hunter movie and never seen Monster Hunter before, right? Or knew nothing about video games in general, and I just watched the Monster Hunter movie. That would be my authentic criticism of the Monster Hunter movie without the bias of being a gamer or even having any idea of Monster Hunter. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that'll be level 1, authentic self. Level 2 was what was it? I'm trying to remember. I think it started with P.
I would focus. Well, how I would do it, just mentally, how my mind. I know what you're going at of like the level of attachment you have to something when you're making like an opinion on something. So if you like again using Monster Hunter, the more you attach to Monster Hunter, the more, and I know you are because you very much enjoy those games and they are fun. I haven't played them too. But I'm not like super attached to the point where if I sat down and watched Monster Hunter, I wouldn't be offended by the choices. I would just sit there and go, I just feel like you didn't need the and I still feel that way. You don't need the time travel element. You could still have I was gonna say Mila Kunis. It's Mila I can't pronounce the last name, but it's Mila like Kochevich or something. She and I don't know if she likes being a gamer or she just kind of likes the job. I don't know, but she's been in a lot of Resident Evil movies and like I don't know. Maybe someone from that company has like blackmail on her, so they're like, "We need you for this," and she's like, "Yes, sir." I don't know. That's an unnecessary jab. Such an unnecessary jab, but maybe she.
Well, her husband is the director, so she.
Oh, okay. That would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I think maybe another aspect is like again. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer, and I already know there's like a kind of like a different planet. It's not time travel, it's just like a different planet warping bullshit. And for me, it's like, why don't you just have the characters from another village, and the monster they're hunting destroyed their village. Like, would that not give you more emphasis? Would that not make a character more interesting? You could have her family harmed, you know? Like, she lost her children. You could have the first, like, 5-6 minutes of her with her children, and you could even have little cat fellas. I don't know if the movie has a little cat. Like, you don't have to base stuff on quote unquote the real world.
Yeah.
For people to become attached. You really don't. And for them to feel like they need to is always a bit of a problem. It's another, you know, again, let's use the Avatar, you know, movie where the Earthbenders all have to work together to lift a pebble. Right? And instead of being on a big metal boat, that makes sense. They're surrounded by Earth, and Aang has to be some stupid little, you know, child being like, just use your powers! Like, what? So, there are decisions that people make that you could disagree with, right? And ultimately, I think that's the argument, is that people make decisions to have things make sense to them, and you sit there and you're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea what they were thinking, but I guess this is what they were thinking. But okay, back to the levels of attachment. I would literally just give them like a mental percentage. I'm, you know, obviously I tend to lean more towards that than, you know, let's say vague amounts of words. So how attached to you or something. So, you know, for me, let's use me for example, right? I would say my attachment to World of Warcraft is not very high. I play it all the time, so how is it not very high? My attachment is to spending time with loved ones. WoW is just the conduit for that. So I can put up with a lot of WoW's issues, especially with how they operate as a business, with how they design their game, because ultimately it's just a conduit for me to spend time with loved ones.
Yeah.
So my attachment is not to WoW, it's to my family or to my friends. Yeah, it's quality time. So my attachment to spending, you know, especially being with loved ones and a social interaction is extremely high. I would say at minimum at 90%, which is why I can so put up with what I would actually consider as a fairly unacceptable business and game at this moment. And I don't really think anyone would be, you know, would disagree with me on that there's a lot of things about Blizzard that are upsetting and annoying and just not okay. But I feel that way not just in how they previously operated, but in how they currently operate as well. Why did your one leg become two? That's kind of creepy.
Why does he keep doing that?
But that is how
well, the only reason I liked the attachment levels that they were talking about is because it kind of, like I said, they had the authentic self, and the second one was a matter of just like you have a preference. That's what it's called. It's preference. Okay. Level 2 is like you have a preference now, right? I prefer spaghetti over hamburger. You know, if I had to choose one or the other, I'd pick spaghetti. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's just you have more of an opinion over these things now. Level 3, it was it's a part of your identity now. Like you ain't gonna kill anybody over like the decision between a hamburger and spaghetti, right? I mean, I'm not saying you would kill anybody over this as well, but you also wouldn't be hurt if somebody served you a hamburger and said spaghetti. You wouldn't be like, my feelings, like you hurt me personally by, you know, telling me that I need to eat a hamburger over spaghetti when I prefer spaghetti. You know, some people do this, and that's why it's like it can be an issue. But it's just to the point where you're level 3 is like it's a part of you. It's part of yourself, your self identity. It's kind of like how some sports fans are, right? Like if they see their team lose, it's just like, what the hell? Like it's an insult to me that you did that. And it's just like with a lot of people with fans of shows or movies and things like that, or characters and stuff like that, when their character, you know, is changed or whatever, it's an insult to them because they put that as a part of themselves.
Yeah, they attach their identity to that character.
Yeah.
Or to that show.
Yes, and that's level 3. And then level 4 and 5 are pretty much like to the extremes. Level 4 is kind of like the attachment you have towards a lot of your friends and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, you're there for them, you're gonna support them no matter what. And then level 5 is like you kill somebody for something. Like level 5 is fanaticism, I believe is what it's called. Level 5 is fanaticism.
We got a lot of people on that fucking stage too, I would say.
I mean, you see people kill people over stupid things and like the trivial things. I mean, that's of course my opinion that it's a trivial thing, but it's pretty crazy. Whether it's sport teams, religion. I mean, religion's a big one. You know, people kill each other over religion because the fanaticism of religion gets insane.
Well, yes, I would always say yes and no. So one of the fundamental problems with fanaticism, or at least in that regard, because I do agree with you that it's ridiculous, but the problem is living in this day and age in a first world country. We have lost a lot of connection to anything beyond our immediate physical surroundings and ourselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, we worry about making it to work on time, what we're gonna eat, you know, paying our bills, paying credit card debt, all that shit. Whereas someone who does not live in an outstanding state or an outstanding country in a sense of, you know, there's always possible threats of someone who disagrees with you under the fundamental belief of how and why we exist, it becomes a very deep aspect of their lives, and it becomes a very terrifying one, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's really easy to say that in a country where if someone goes, you don't agree with my belief, I'm gonna shoot you, and pretty much my people are in control, so I can get away with it. Like, that doesn't exist in America, but that does exist in some portions of the world. Not to say that it doesn't happen in America, because it also still unfortunately does happen in America from time to time. From the fairly fanatical, to the point where that's not okay. And I think, you know, not to do a side tangent, man, I had the weirdest thought a couple nights ago. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
You know, we were young when 9/11 happened, right?
Uh-huh.
And one thing I think I've always thought about 9/11 is literally the number 911.
Yeah.
It happened on 911, and I sit there and I think, what if it wasn't an attack on America? It was people who were trying to send a signal that we need help, and they just turned the message on an attack on terror. And it's like, you know, why would you attack someone if you need help, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, how else do you get people's attention when they're so caught up in their own little, you know, part of the planet, their own little reality?
Dude, I'm legit, like, lost.
Oh, I have no idea where you're supposed to be going. I'm watching you run around, and I'm just kind of like, honestly, I'm looking down at eating spaghetti, so I'm like, I look up, I'm like, oh, he's in it.
Yeah, he's still there in that same spot. She says that she's down here. I don't know where to go. So I thought I checked everything already. There's no map either. I feel like I've collected all the items in this area now. But I'm still missing a key, so apparently I haven't collected all the items.
Have you checked that closet?
I didn't let me open it at first. Let me try again.
Nope. Maybe the
suit
of armor?
hole. What was that?
Maybe the suit of armor?
No.
Nope. Oh.
I'm checking here again. I'm gonna at least get past the tutorial today, guys. That was just this chest in here. Oh my goodness.
But,
Bust out the game facts, everybody. Bust out the game facts.
Yeah. I don't know, I just had that weird thought for a moment of like, obviously it was terror attack led by terror, blah blah blah, yeah, and I do.
There's probably more to it,
like
but
there has to be so much more because all of the decisions and all of the things that were made were not just opportunistic. There were definitely some alarming signs that should have been pointed out more.
Well, from what I heard... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. I want to hear from what you heard.
Oh, just from what I heard, apparently they already knew that it was going to happen, but they were, like, fighting over each other to figure out who's going to...
Yes and no. So, I believe... So either the FBI knew or the CIA knew, and they purposely didn't inform the other. So it was less about fighting over, and whichever one had the information of a possible terrorist attack, they held on to it instead of sending it to the people or to the other people that would assist and could have stopped it a little bit sooner. I don't remember which one it was because there is interdepartmental competition. So pretty much whoever stops the terrorist attack gets to be the famous one, right? Gets to be like, we did this. But because instead of working together to actually stop it, whichever one it was, and unfortunately I cannot remember which one was at fault, and ultimately I blame both for having that behavior and culture to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was that aspect. There were also other aspects, like, for example, George W. Bush Sr. literally armed and trained some of Osama bin Laden's best men when they were fighting and Osama bin Laden himself when they were fighting the Russians when they were in Afghanistan, because for some reason every 20 years someone's like, you know what, we'll Afghanistan, and 20 years later they're like, we've wasted a lot of money, and it's like, can we stop fucking doing this? And unfortunately, people I'm so underqualified to even theorize, right?
Hey, a lot of us are underqualified to say anything, but we're not scientists or historians or anything. We're just shooting the shit.
Yeah, there's so many thoughts I have on the matter, because I think one-dimensional thinking and like this is the way it is so silly. But when you try to have two competing views of like, well, why did a lot of the people support, America in getting rid of these people? And it's like, well, they thought that America was going to stay, and it's like, well, why the fuck did they think America would stay? Like, does America usually stick around for those people? Like, if they did any American research, they would know we've never really stuck around. But that's also not actually true. After Vietnam, we stopped sticking around, but we stuck around in Korea, we stuck around in Germany, we stuck around in Japan. So, only recently have we kind of had a, let's just get out of Dodge and fuck it mentality. And I don't know why, and someone probably, like, if someone ever listens to this, they'll just be screaming the word Republican at us all day long, right? But it's like, for the past 30 to 40 years, America has been doing more fuckery than any good.
Yeah, that's...
And when I say America, I'm really referring to our government's decisions and not the people in America. I think the average person is still pretty good and, doesn't try to fuck over people and all this and all that, and usually, people are just trying to live their lives and... Ooh.
She's
ugly.
Damn. Do I have to reload, I'm guessing?
Probably.
It's one of those games. I forgot old game.
Yeah.
Gotta do all that.
Gotta keep those save states.
Oh, I didn't save it! So this game's about the mitochondria taking revenge.
The mitochondria.
She said, the boss said, now is the day for the mitochondria to finally escape, or something like that.
Okay. Well, when mitochondria is sentient, I'll freak the hell out.
That's actually a theory in biology, that the mitochondria used to be a separate entity that was eaten by another cell, and it just ended up becoming
the powerhouse for it.
The powerhouse.
Instead of devouring, that's it's a valid theory too. We're not absolutely too sure. There's so many possibilities, and I'm always a person of, it's never just one. Because there are too many factors that need to be in play for it to be one simple answer. It's so many different variables that happened to be right at the point they needed to be. And also, people act like it happened in a single moment, like it wasn't built up over time. Like, that's what's so weird. It's like, humans just became sentient one day. It's like, no, we've lived for over... Homo sapiens have existed for 120,000 years. We have been writing for about 12,000 to about 16,000. So we found some fairly old, like, very early civilizations that have had writings from the people who were in charge. And that's about it. And we've had numbers for even a little bit longer, like, people were keeping track of how much, bushels of wheat they had. And not only because we have the evidence, but it also makes sense. That's stuff you would want to keep track of. We know that we all kind of developed in, more or less, Homo sapiens developed in Africa, and as they spread out, there were other hominid-like species that also developed, and we bred them. And there are definitely always going to be some parts we aren't too sure about, and we can only theorize, because unfortunately that information is just kind of lost to time. And unless, like, we get a lucky find, we'll never really know. But we can have pretty good estimations.
Yeah. That's kind of how I see everything nowadays. It's all a web. It's connected to everything. It's not just... It's kind of like looking at game genres. Like, I made a lot of... I thought I didn't go yet. You know how I like to organize my games by game genre and stuff? My god, they don't want me to leave this place. I realize when I'm, like, separating them that how connected a lot of games are to different genres. And it's just like that with everything. Like, it isn't just one answer. It isn't just like, oh yeah, that's just
a horror game. Because technically this is an RPG horror and a shooter game.
Yeah. And it's turn-based, all that kind of stuff. It has all these different roots. I mean, even looking at something like a Souls-like, okay, yes, it's now become its own little genre, but it isn't because Dark Souls just created its own, genre of video games. It is an accumulation of so many other genres smashed together.
Yep. Well, that's kind of the funny thing. The first virtual game was Pong, right? And one of the interesting facts is, as time goes on, you get more diversity and nuance and differences. And over time, those create their own iterations and versions and genres. And we notice this trend in everything.
Oh, it's Entropy.
Right?
Well, yeah, it's breaking down into different...
Yeah, into different variations. And those different variations, we give names, we catalog them, we kind of see what parts that they've broken down into and how they're related. And humans have done the same thing. where we have broken down into different races depending on where we're born.
Mm-hmm.
Because those races have slight iterations and changes to be better suited to their environment. Like, that's the only difference between lighter skin and darker skin, is people with darker skin generally got more sun, so they needed it so that they wouldn't get as sunburned as quickly. Whereas people that had less light, or usually it was just less light, their skin slowly over time became lighter because they didn't need, like, they weren't really getting sunburn, you know? So that aspect of us didn't need to be there, and it was able to focus on other parts. And people don't, you know, one of the weirdest things is to have a thought or a study and to think that it is so separated from all other forms of information.
It's like food, man.
Yeah.
I try to explain food to people, and they think, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why is it connected to all these? Like, no, that's exactly why it makes sense, because it's connected to all these things. Oh shit, I didn't want to go in there.
Well, it's like noodles. There's so many different iterations and ways to make noodles, but at the end of the day, I could show you a noodle, and you'd go, that's a noodle, regardless of how it was made. Oh, remember to save.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go do. Oh yeah, and then it's semantic meaning of noodle, right? It's whatever we want it to be. And whatever we agree is colloquial meaning of noodle. Just like, you know, Misty and her biscuits and scones. We can't agree on that.
Well, there's definitely, you know, and that's the thing, is variations get different names, but they're ultimately made from generally the same product, and the only difference is generally how they're processed to some small margin, and what they taste like. Like, what is their texture, what's their feature, because, you know, let's say, you know, if you are trying to order one thing and you get another, you're like, oh, I guess I didn't say the right thing.
Yeah. So I'm trying to check something really quick.
Yes. Quick save.
I'm trying to figure out how to like save state, load state, like really quick. Let me see. Hotkey settings.
Hotkeys. Hotkey settings. You missed it. It's there. Down.
Save state. Okay. Where's default save state?
Save game state 1, load game state 1.
Okay. We'll make it save to selected slot, load from selected slot. Just F1 and F2?
Ah, yeah.
Let's try it. Resume. Save it. Oh. There we go. Okay, F2 is to save, F1 is to load. Okay. I just keep making her play the same line over and over again. Okay, but what I was trying to say before about food, and my controller disconnected, great, was how your digestive system has a lot to do with your brain. Your brain, of course, is connected to everything in your body, but, you know, if you mess up your digestive system, you can really fuck up your brain. And vice versa, like, everything is just so connected, and it's like the Ouroboros, right? It's just this thing that's constantly, you know, eating itself. And if you mess up one thing, like, the whole thing falls apart, in a sense.
Well, yeah, and that's homeostasis, you know. You have a state of living, and that state of living has a balance where if it moves too much in one direction or too much in the other, there will be consequences.
Why isn't my controller working?
And that's not just, you know, it's not just internally, you know, externally also plays a part. If you're not in a good environment, that will mess with you. It will mess with your physical and mental state, as well as your emotional. Because your mental state is not your emotional state. Those two are separate. Because you can be mentally upset, emotionally upset, but mentally aware that, okay, this was upsetting, but I have other things I need to do. So as you're processing your emotions, you know, mentally you're in a state of, let's say, you're hunkered down. So you're not really thinking about the future or, you know, what you're doing, and you're just kind of mentally processing because you're emotionally sad. And physically, maybe you're laying in bed, you're just kind of sitting in a chair or sitting on your couch, and you're just kind of blazingly, you know, just binging Netflix and processing.
Yeah.
And I find that it's pretty interesting. You know, the first thing you should always prioritize, I would say, no matter what, is your physical health.
Yeah.
And your physical environment, because that is going, because one, and it's again a message from my roommate, which I value his insight, is, you know, you need a body. So,
when you say physical health, what do you mean?
So when I mean physical health, I mean the physical state of you. So when I'm referring to physical health, I'm not talking about, like, again, I'm not talking about how you mentally or how you emotionally feel. I'm talking about physically your brain. Because you cannot confuse your brain for your mind, your soul, your psyche. Your brain is the physical object. All of those other words are describing the psychological software. The brain is the hardware. The brain is the CPU.
Yeah.
So you cannot confuse the health of your brain for the health of your psyche or the health of your emotions, or, you know, that aspect. So when I'm talking about physical, I mean the truly physical. Your brain, your body, your heart, they're all connected. They're not separate. People should never separate those two under any circumstance. Or those three, or however you want to, you know, dissect the body, right? And then you have your mental and your emotional. Again, the separation between that is emotional is how you feel, mental is how you process. So, you know, let's say you're feeling angry. Okay, but how do you process that anger? Do you think about what's making you angry? Do you think about what caused it? Do you look for someone to blame for that anger? What do you do in a sense of, I am feeling this way, what is my process to either relieve it, or to handle it, or to address it, or is your mental process to block it out?
My mitochondria is free.
Nice.
I don't need this physical self anymore. I have a new physical
Oh, that's
self.
some deja vu. Why is that so... I've never played this game. I'm having deja vu about that. I loved when people just figured out words. They're just like, mitochondria. Why is that little girl starting to lift up her dress? I'm very... Yep, see? I told you a doctor was gonna come in. There's gonna be some bad... Dude, I hope this is like
PG-13. Trauma.
This is gonna be... Oh yeah, she's about to get traumatized. That's what I can tell. She's being in the hospital
She's
alone
been
with the
suppressing
doctor.
it. Mitochondria to be free. What? By the way, for some reason my sticks don't work anymore, so I have to walk this slow everywhere. Oh, found the run button. Before the sticks were working, and now they're not working anymore, so I don't know what's up. But the B button is apparently the run button, so that works.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah, you said physical self. You know, I totally agree with that. That's changed. That's what's changed my life too. Like, learning how our body works when it comes to eating food and physical, you know, fitness and stuff like that. It's changed my software, like you said, like so much. Like, I feel like before I was like pretty much like, you know, using the metaphor you're using of computers and stuff like that. I felt like I had viruses, you know, I was just overloaded. The stress was just all over, you know, like too many programs running at the same time. Just all this like crap, right? And now I just feel like I got new hardware like installed into my computer, and now I'm just like, okay, I'm fine now. I'm good. I feel healthy. I feel good.
Honestly, a lot of people have bullshit software running about the stupidest shit. That shouldn't even be.
Well, the thing is, their hardware is shit. That's the problem. Their hardware is shit, and so the software is just driving them even, crazier.
Mm-hmm.
It's slowing their computer down so much.
Yeah, they definitely need. You know what? They need a better tower. They need a better CPU.
Yeah.
They absolutely need a better fucking CPU fan. They need to dust that shit out.
Yeah. I mean,
I recommend a monitor upgrade, but that's just my opinion.
It's a problem with the nutrition as well. Our nutrition, like, we can't agree on anything when it comes to that. Like,
oh hell no. Well, I mean,
we agree on some things.
I don't think so. There is some level of like, hey, if you can't handle rice, right? Because there are people with the sickle cell disease, so they can't really handle
gluten.
Gluten, so that takes a lot of things out of the window for them. And
but
I would argue.
I was gonna say there are things that people can't handle, or we as a human race can't handle, but we still eat it constantly. Like, one of the biggest things, you want to know what's a big thing that most humans, I mean, I wouldn't even say most humans, I would say all humans can't eat, because it actually hurts us after a long time, is tomatoes. The thing is, we don't make them right. A lot of us eat the skin and the seeds. We're not supposed to be eating the skin and the seeds. We're actually supposed to be peeling the tomatoes and taking the seeds out. Those things are actually poisonous. They're part of the nightshade family, which is a poisonous part of the, poisonous family. And it's just those kind of things that we don't inform people. Like, I'm just learning about this because I've been reading books from like doctors and scientists who actually work in the industry of like dietitians and nutrition. They do surgeries for people that suffer through all that kind of stuff. And it's just they talk about all this stuff that the government doesn't want to do anything about it because money, right? Because if you said, oh, hey, tomatoes are pretty poisonous, but you got to take the skin and seeds out, everyone would be like, oh, it would hurt the tomato industry, I guess you could say. And it's like, nobody wants that, right? It's just that kind of stuff that, like even bread, right? I mean, I love bread. Don't get me wrong, I love bread.
But technically, it's not good for you.
It's not good for you. It's very inflammatory.
Well, that's...
Oh, go ahead.
See, that's always the thing, too, though. It's like, everything in moderation. But two, it's like, at some point, you need to eat something, right? And
yeah, of course.
You can definitely choose to eat healthier things, and I actually don't think that's a bad thing. But I don't think a little bit of something, let's say, is horrible. Like, like
the tomatoes. I'm not saying don't eat tomatoes. Yeah, I'm just saying that if you're gonna eat a bunch of tomatoes, at least do it right, because you're hurting yourself. Like, look, sometimes I eat the tomatoes with the skin and the seeds because at the end of the day, I know that I'm not gonna freaking.
Oh, dude, I will devour a fucking a whole.
Throw some salt on there.
Just to eat a plain tomato. Just like, dude, it's not an apple. I'm like, it's an apple to me.
But the thing is, I try to be more considerate about that now. Like, if I'm gonna have a sandwich, a lot of times I don't get tomato anymore because honestly, I never really thought about. To me, like the tomato didn't really stand out in the first place. So I was like, okay, well, if that's something I shouldn't be eating in the first place, then I'm just gonna take it out. But if I'm eating something that's primarily just tomato,
where I'm like, oh, am I just trying to die sooner? I love tomatoes; they're so good. I'll eat a handful of just grape tomatoes like it's nothing. I'll just snake grape tomatoes like they're an egg down my mouth. It's like,
And see, that's another thing too, is a lot of people think they're okay after they eaten, certain stuff, but they don't realize that they just don't know how they would really feel if they weren't eating that stuff, Again, like you said, homeostasis. I don't know why my controller's not working anymore. I don't know if the game froze because I cannot.
I think the game froze. I'm looking like it hasn't moved at all. Like no one said anything. I think it's froze.
Let me restart it really quick.
And definitely, I do think there's an aspect of like, like for example, I just had spaghetti and it has tomato sauce in it. It's like, am I gonna feel bad? Well, probably not because generally, it's my comfort food. It makes me feel better, not worse. But also, I'm not eating like a pound of tomato sauce.
No, my controls just don't work. That's the problem.
Oops. Did its battery die or something? Or maybe
no, I have it connected to what? Wow, she's still messed up. It's just this wire is not good.
You just found out how to bug out the boss. Oh, let's see if she actually hits you. Wow, you get. Oh, okay, no, she can't hit you again. I was about to be like, sit in the corner.
No, dude, the controllers just stopped. I don't know. Maybe I gotta reset the program. Give me a second. Oh, this thing. Why does it have to be so? I think the cable I have is just so bad.
Man, I don't know why. So when I was a kid, I assume the same was for most people, is that you got attached to your character where you felt like you were your character. So whenever your character got hit by damage, like mentally you got scared because you felt it too.
For some games, yeah, I feel that. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Oh, fuck. I need to change that. Well, I gotta load the game actually. I accidentally hit the save state button and I saved over the state I was in.
Aww.
But I have the in-game save as well, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But still, I'm like, fuck. Oh my god. But yeah, there's a lot of foods that surprisingly are not really good for us. We eat so much of it. And then wonder at the end of the day why we're in so much pain.
Yeah, I guess
and we
that's
blame
the
it
thing.
on just getting old. And yes, getting old does get in the way. But a lot of the issues we have are not from just getting old. It's just from eating so many foods and having
that
time
we really
pass.
shouldn't be eating
Yeah,
anymore.
and then time passes, and so we confuse it for age when it's not actually age. It's just the food that we've been eating finally taking hold of us. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I feel like a
you on
spry young man now after eating the stuff I should be eating. Like, oh my goodness, I feel great like every day. And I'm finally getting a six-pack, like, from just eating good.
Nice.
I don't, like, I'm losing weight and I eat a lot of food still. Like, it's just a matter of just eating good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't work out a lot. It's, you know how they say, like, you know, getting six-packs, you know, getting abs is not, you know, due to exercise, it's just from the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I do exercise every now and then. I go for a run and stuff. You know, I like to keep my energy up. Because if I don't keep my energy up, then my body has no reason to be burning the freaking calories.
Mm-hmm.
So. Oh, that's another thing too. People, I used to do the same thing too, counting calories. Don't get me wrong, it does help. But at the end of the day, it doesn't always mean what you think it is because we don't use all the calories.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys got to remember, we do poop out corn.
Yeah, that's true.
Not all of it goes through our body, or it goes into our body. God damn, I gotta fight this bitch again. Alright, F2. F2 is the save button, I gotta remember that. Not F1. F1 loads. The stock little, the pretty girl scream. What's up, Vanda? Okay, I'll save it there. Okay, it works. Oh god! Oh, she didn't do that much damage at least. Actually, she does a little bit of damage hitting me right next to her. Oh, never mind, I lied. She did a lot. It's guaranteed hit. Get away from me. Really? Oh, I shouldn't have done that, because if she smacks me one more time, I'm dead. No! Woo! That was close. Use item. Medicine. Use. Ah! I went the wrong way. Crit. Ah, jeez. This is why I was bad at World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
It's like, he's moving in that direction. Ah! Freak out and run into the
Let me move with him.
Alright, I'm gonna save it again here. Your
Oh,
mitochondria are free.
I need to take out my laundry again.
God damn it, I can't believe I've spent an hour on this goddamn intro part.
Yeah.
It's gonna take me more than 5 days to beat this game. Here comes the creepy doctor. Why is her... I feel like it's a memory of
Don't let her
herself.
touch your giblets.
You think that if you had I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain that. Like she's having a memory, right? Like a recall of her memory, but it's from a third person perspective still. But I mean, at the same time,
that happens. Though people talk about having like out of body experiences, so
yeah,
that's not super weird.
I guess. Yeah, I guess I can see that. It's just that my reason I was like, okay, maybe that doesn't make sense because, we're playing her. You know, the game is running in a third-person perspective, so it only makes sense for the game when she has a memory for it to be still in a third-person perspective. Now, if it was perspective of somebody else, then it'd be a little weird, I guess, because if we're running from her memory, like it's running out of her memory, it shouldn't be running. It shouldn't be showing somebody else's perspective in a memory, unless you're clearly saying that, hey, we just want to show you this information. It's not a memory, it's just information we think that's important that you should know. Yeah, I mean.
I know what you mean.
You're damn right you know what I mean. You know something I learned this year? That I realized I was always really bad at? English grammar. And not just like the basics, you know, like how to write an essay and stuff like that. Like that stuff, you know, I sort of understand. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it, but
I was pretty bad at it too. There was actually it was in one of the way in the when I started going to college. There was a teacher who was like, all of you suck at writing because you weren't taught anything in high school, so like we're going back to basics. So she was like, she was super grammar Nazi, but it was actually really informative.
Grammar Nazi. There was a book I was reading and they were mad about the grammar Nazi thing. Or not mad, they were just kind of like, let's not use grammar Nazi, let's use grammando. Like going grammando on somebody. And you know what? I like both. I'm fine with both. Wait, I'm a cop. I'm with the NYPD. Because I do like grammando. I think it sounds pretty cool too. And I feel like grammar Nazi is like when you're going in a whole nother level and you're just becoming a complete dick about it. But grammando is more of like, it bothers you, but you're not going to like throw a whole tantrum about it, you know? I don't know. That's the way I see it. Oh, everyone's good. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, I can't leave. Everyone's just standing there quietly. Everyone's gotten burned. A lot of them probably won't make it. Damn, it sucks. Okay, do I just have to talk to everybody or what? I wonder if it's that thing called spontaneous combustion. Who knows, huh? Yeah, you think we'll be on TV? Hope this becomes a TV movie or something. Let me patch you up. Oh, I used that medicine. He just touched my boobs. That is not patching me up. I did not get hit in the boobs, okay?
Sometimes you gotta patch up a titty or two, okay?
Hey! I've got the same gun! I've got bullets for that if you want. Oh, they're just giving me ammo to continue? Wait, where am I supposed to go then? Because they're all just giving me stuff to keep fighting. What did I miss? ¿Qué pasó con Carlos? But yeah, the whole English grammar thing, I'm trying to apply. I mean, I can only apply it to certain languages now that I'm trying to learn more languages. But like just understanding exactly what a preposition is and an adverb. Like adverbs, I didn't realize how wild adverbs are. Like Jesus, they can do almost everything in a sentence. And then understanding that a phrase, a clause, and a sentence are all three different things. Like when you think about it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I never thought about it. It's not that I thought they were the same thing. It's just I didn't really care. But now I'm like,
we were not taught to think. I think that's one of the most fucking frustrating things on the planet. You were not taught to think in school. You were told to understand the information they tell you. And nothing more.
Not question it. Do not question it.
Well, it's not even question it. You're literally not taught to think.
Well, like,
they tell you what a letter is. They tell you how it sounds. They tell you how it makes a word when they're all put together and how the word sounds. And they tell you these things, but they don't give you the foundational understanding. I was talking about this with one of my friends, where one of the things is, for the longest time, I just winged it as a kid. I didn't know what the hell I was reading, what it meant, what it said. Like, I just knew how to pronounce all of this stuff. And I winged it, and everyone went, oh, you know how to read, you know? Like, we're never given the full information, we're never given the foundational understanding, because even the people don't have it. They're like, we don't have enough time to get into the foundation. So, you know, you just need to catch up to speed where we're at. And that's what public schools, that's what all schools are, really. Public schools just happen to, I think honestly end up being the worst offenders.
Like, some of it, you can be like, gosh, like, people just don't want to take the time to teach a lot of the time. A lot of times, it's just not enough. Yeah, that's what it's saying. There's just not enough time.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that they're the worst offenders because they suck. It's like they're the worst offenders because, unfortunately, there's just not enough time and there are too many students. Like...
Oh yeah, that's a big thing too. There's just too many students. Like, just today, I had to teach, like, 5 science classes. And I felt like I was... Like, there's kids that had questions, and these questions, like, they needed answers that were, like, pretty long, like... Because it would cause a chain of questions, right? Because
because they were actually curious.
Yeah, like, because, it's just like kids when they do the why phase, right? Like, why? But it's a much better version of that, because now they're, instead of just saying why, they would be like, okay, what does this mean?
The dots.
Yeah, they're connecting. It's like, what does this mean? Oh, okay, so using this information that I know from a previous, engagement, how does that connect to this information? And it's like, oh, that's a great question. Let me answer it. But it's like, if I'm only have time to do this with one kid, and then another kid's just like, I need that time as well. It's like, that sucks because I don't have that time. I only have 40 minutes with a class full of 30 kids. Oh, I was supposed to go down this hole. I only have 40 minutes to deal with 30 kids, and all of them are probably, having these questions, and most of them probably don't even want to say anything because they know most of the time they're not going to have time to even get, to have that question answered, or they're embarrassed.
Or they don't even know how to ask it correctly. Like, sometimes you want to ask a question, you're like, I don't even know how to word it.
Yeah, and then you have kids who are just completely, they've gone to that phase of, learned helplessness, or they just can't think for themselves at all. Like, they're just like, what do I do? It's like, did you look at the paper? Did you read it? Like, no. What do I do? Tell me what to do. It's like,
yeah,
oh my goodness.
That's the other problem with schools. If they just tell them what to do.
Like, I don't do it to be mean or anything, but I'm just like asking them legit questions. Like, have you read the paper? Like, did you look at what's in front of you? Because I don't want to hold your hand, on this. But a lot of them too, they're not eating right. They're not getting sleep. That's another big thing too. It's just, and it's hard, that's all on the parents as well, and the kid.
Yeah, you don't control that.
I control that.
There's no way to know, like, which ones are and which ones aren't for sure, right? You can see the signs, but I promise you, a lot of people would have looked at me as a child and been like, oh, you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not getting enough, and your parents are, It's like, well, it's not really my parents making that decision happen.
No, exactly. It's the kid. But as the parent, being there, not to necessarily get mad at the kid, but like just checking up on them and, being curious as to why. But the thing is, if they don't have that knowledge either, because they're probably not getting sleep and eating right either, so there's that as well. So it's just, it's hard. It's a chain. Again, it goes back to what we were saying, everything's so connected that you can't just blame it on one thing. There's just too many variables.
Yeah. And that's always going to be, almost always going to be the situation. And it's like, we have this problem. How do we handle it when this problem is a problem that consists of several other nuanced problems that are culminating to this one large one? It's like, okay, which one is the one that we can most directly affect and will reduce the problem by its largest margin? And you might have it where it's like, 10% on 3 of them, and then, 35% on 2 others. So it's like, okay, which one is the 35 I can tackle the most efficiently, the best, and I'm like in a position to tackle. And in some cases, it's just, you know, connecting with them and trying to get them to see maybe either the bigger picture or just to understand a little bit more. And that these, you know, like for example, when they have awesome questions,
yeah.
If I was allowed to, I'm not sure, I don't know what the fuck, you know, is allowed and isn't allowed, but I would be someone who would open up, you know, YouTube, and I would go, this is someone that I know can answer these questions as well, because I only get so much time. And I also know, you know, as a teacher or a substitute teacher, you still have to follow a curriculum. You are expected to finish a certain subject by the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. So you only get so much time to talk beyond that curriculum, which I think that has always frustrated me. Because I loved when teachers would get into more like actual legitimate life lessons or things of valuable information that was beyond the curriculum or the subject. And it always sucked when you had some of those teachers that were just like, nope, you're here for me to talk at you. Fucking Johnson.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure if you ever had that teacher who sucked in high school.
I think so, I did.
Yeah, I think we all. I think the school purposely made sure you experienced him at least once. There was a thing when I was a sophomore. There was a senior I knew who his name was Jesse, and him and his friends, anytime he would say anything, like after he would get done with whatever he said, they would just start clapping. They would just like
what?
Yeah, they would just troll the shit out of him. I love him. Jesse was hilarious in my opinion.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's crazy. It's tough because I even apologized to the kid because it's funny thing too is that kid when they came to the classroom, the teacher immediately told me, keep an eye on him. He's, you know, very trouble. You know, he's pretty much he's trouble. But she didn't say it in a mean way. She was kind of just like this sweet baby right here, like 'cause she, you know, she's like motherly with them. You know, like he can often make bad decisions, and I just want to make, you know, to let me know if he does try to make one of those bad decisions. And he was good. He was good. He just had a lot of questions. And often in the time, there was questions that weren't necessarily related to what we were learning.
What you would think.
But they were sort of, you know, and again it goes back to the whole, everything's kind of connected. My controller disconnected again. God damn it. Let me save it here at least. And hopefully I don't screw it up. But like at the end of the day, I had to apologize to him. I was like, look, like, you know, your questions are great, but I just don't have the time, and I apologize. It's not your fault at all. We need to move on, and we need to, you know, finish this rest of this lesson plan that we had today.
Yeah.
And he was very understanding of that, because he was telling me that his other teacher was like mean to him all the time and stuff like that, because I was just the sub for today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told him, like, look, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just that we need to move on. And he was just, I'm just glad he didn't, like.
Well, it also comes with, like, not inherently in experience, but like when you've done something for a long time, the word tainted isn't the right word, but you get either a feeling, not a feeling, but you kind of just make a judgment whether it's right or wrong. So when you know, the teacher was like, oh yeah, this kid's gonna ask a lot of like problematic questions that aren't relevant, or she doesn't feel as relevant, and she just like, she the way made a judgment that he just asked a lot of irrelevant questions instead of trying to understand where the questions are coming from. And not to say that's inherently bad, but like, for example, you know, I've had an experience kind of like that, where someone kind of just made a judgment call on me after interacting with me for like 4 minutes. And it happens, right? It's annoying when it happens. And just kind of like, at the end of the day, you're almost kind of like, fuck you for me. I didn't make a judgment on you. Fuck you for making a judgment on me. You weren't in no position to do that.
Yeah, I've seen that happen way too many times. And maybe I've done it without realizing it too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, we all do. We all do
Yeah.
do it. I've done it before. We all do it to some degree in some regard. I have a tendency to do it with people that operate in a very particular way, where I see it and I'm like, I kind of know how the song story goes. I've seen it a fair share of times to know how it goes. So I'm not really gonna play along with your insanity, because it's not gonna help you, and it's only going to annoy me. And and to be fair, I know that could be mean. I am not gonna say who inherently those behaviors are regarded at, because it could be targeted at almost anyone if you really wanted to. But for me, it's when certain people get really fixated on one particular aspect of life, and if they just get this aspect of life, all their problems will go away and they'll be happy. And the second they get it, they're not happy, and it's like, what the fuck? And it's just like, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You fixated on this one thing to be the answer to your problems. And unfortunately, a lot more often than not, kind of going back to that a little bit earlier, it's like you answered this problem and it was only 10% of your issues.
Yeah.
She turned into a poop monster.
Yep.
Okay.
I just realized I wasn't streaming anymore.
I have a...
Oh, you have it on the stream?
Yeah, I was like, I thought I turned into a poop monster and I was like, what the... But, lightning alligator thing.
Who's that Pokemon? I mean, Digimon. Oh, right, Mike.
Dude, I liked the first Digimon game where like they ran with you and they fought, like, because after that the Digimon kind of pulled a Pokemon and it would like do a warp to like a battle and just be turn-based. So I really liked the first original Digimon, even though unfortunately if your Digimon pooped somewhere it would like turn into the poop Pokemon. I hated that.
Oh yeah, I hated that. Oh.
You get a cool Pokemon and like it poops one time and it freaking evolves into the poop monster.
That was annoying.
Yeah. And you're like, well, I have to make a new game because now I have a poop monster.
So frustrating. Wasn't his name Sukamon or something like that?
Yeah.
That was something. Why did they change the camera angle? I don't like this. No, I don't want to aim at him. I'm trying to aim at his tail.
Wouldn't you hit his tail though if you're behind him?
Yeah, but it's saying that I'm not targeting. It says I'm targeting his face.
Oh.
Unless I'm supposed to be targeting his face now. Oh, I guess I am. He looks so broken.
Yeah, he's like...
Oh.
I don't know what I was talking about, man. Shit.
Oh. Life, man. Life is just
life.
too complex to break it down to one little thing. It kind of reminds me of the Forest of Resemblance that I remember reading in Poe Bronson and Arvind Gupta's book, Decoding the World, where they say at the very end of the book, they're like, be careful of the Forest of Resemblance, because you think that you have the answers to life, but when you realize it's much more than that, it's not just one thing, you know? And what they mean, like, the Forest of Resemblance is like, you start seeing all trees as the same tree, instead of realizing that each tree is pretty different.
Yeah.
There's something going on in each tree. Yes, they're very similar to each other, but they're all different.
They are all unique.
Yeah.
And I think that is pretty much always that's always going to be the factor.
Because I used to do that all the time. I used to I used to learn about something and I'm like, oh, it's the answer to everything. It'll solve all my problems. And then I'll learn something new. I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then I'll learn something new. Oh, that's also a factor. And now I'm
Yeah,
just
and
like, okay, I learned that, but I'm sure there's more. I need to learn more.
that is very much the difference between, wisdom and knowledge, right? Knowledge is something that you can read and you're like, okay, I know this now. But wisdom is something you very much need to experience, and that takes time.
It makes me think of kind of like the horoscope stuff and the star sign stuff. It's
Hmm.
like having knowledge of that, you know, is cool. In some places, I guess, like that's why people like it because it's interesting. It tells a story, and people love telling stories.
Hmm.
But solely basing your knowledge and your perspective of people just on that one thing
Yeah,
shows that
it's so.
you're enslaved by that one source of knowledge, that you're not open to think that there probably is more variables besides this one thing that you learned about.
Hmm.
And again, from my perspective, it's all a load of baloney, of course, but at the same time I understand why people like it. But again, like I
Well,
said, if people just base people on just that one aspect, then to me it goes to that force of resemblance thing where they're just like, oh, it's the answers to all the things I need to know. This is all what people are
yeah.
about. Their horoscope signs. What are you, Leo, Capricorn? I know everything
Okay,
about you
you're this
now. It's
way.
just like,
Yeah. Well, and what's so funny is Penn and Teller's bullshit. I'm not sure if you've ever seen any of their episodes. Uh, I've been rewatching them lately with family, and they got into horoscopes. And something they did is they gave a college class a kind of like a horoscope test to
mm-hmm.
know their personality. And when they're reading it out, a lot of them felt like they agreed with it, and in reality, all it said was, I can't remember the exact wording, but in essence, it didn't give them any answers. It just gave vague. Oh,
Yeah.
sometimes you like to be out and in the public, but other times you like to be kind of in your house, and you don't really you don't really want to socialize. Sometimes you want to be, the life of the party, but sometimes you just want to be a bit of an introvert and you don't really want to talk to people. You really focused on your jobs. Sometimes and it's this very vague thing. A lot of people were agreeing with it. They're like, yeah, this got me pretty spot on. And the teacher was like, well, yeah,
Mm.
you're not just one way. The reason you'll bond with the type of horoscope, it just depends on how you feel on that day. Another aspect of like, oh, you were born at this time of the year, so you're more likely to be like this. One of the reasons it kind of, not that it fails, but because it doesn't fail, a lot of people believe in it. In other cultures, they use blood types instead of like when you were born, right?
Yeah.
Um, but one of the aspects it builds to is, okay, why are a lot of people born in this frame of time operate in this way? And it's like, well, it depends on the culture. It depends on like, okay, when is your birthday closely related to these holidays and these behaviors? Like a lot of people who were born in October seem to be a bit weirder than those who were born in December. That might be more family and like family orientated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, look at the holidays that surround their time of birth. We generally attribute certain aspects to us. My birthday is September 8th. Well, what happened 3 days after my birthday, or after my ninth birthday was September 11th? That's gonna fuck with your head a little bit if you're a
Yeah.
kid, especially if you're I kind of wonder. I almost always want to ask people who don't really have either a military background or, let's say, unfortunately, I hate to get a little racy with it, like a white family background that's all about America. Like, what's their opinion on 9/11? Does it cross their mind at all? Because for me, it does, because it's like I had a father in the Navy, I had a grandfather in the Navy, I had a great grandfather in the Navy. I have a lot of family members in the military. I always have. And I come from, a white family, and, white families can be all about America if they're born in America. Not always, but usually, I think that's a safe assumption. Um, for a good chunk of America, at least. And what are their opinions on that day? For me, I was so young, I just sat there and I asked my dad why it happened. And my dad told me a very simple fact. He went, people don't go to war. But let me think of the exact wording here, because it was something that I kind of hold very dear.
Yeah. Well,
People don't fight in wars because they want to fight in wars.
Yeah.
People fight in wars because they want something and they've come to the realization that war is the only way to get what they want.
Yeah.
Um,
well, like, what's your perspective on the Pearl Harbor incident and stuff like that?
so Pearl Harbor, ironically, my perspective, because not only because I know how it's played out, but I very much knew why it was done. It was a miscalculation on, and ironically, almost the opposite end of the spectrum. With Pearl Harbor was one nation attacking another, with the hope that attacking them would scare them, that attacking them would make them go, "Oh, we don't want anything to do with this. Leave us the fuck alone."
It backfired.
And it backfired on them horribly. Whereas, ironically, with 9/11, we weren't targeting a nation. We were targeting not random, but a small group of people in a country that didn't really have that, that kind of nation identity. You can't fight, a country who the majority of the people in the country had nothing, the vast majority, 99.9% of the people in the country had nothing to do with what happened.
Yeah.
But yet we came to the country to fuck them up for it. And expected something good to come out of our hostility and aggression. So, with my opinion on Pearl Harbor, it's like, not only did it make sense, it was just a bad idea because they didn't understand America as they thought they had. They thought Americans were aloof and, in essence, materialistic little pussies. Turns out they were wrong.
Well, not just that, it's just that we were doing something, we were helping.
We were definitely helping.
And so they wanted to stop that.
Yeah, they definitely wanted us to not help at all.
Because we put ourselves in the middle of the fire, pretty much. And Japan was just like, oh, we'll handle them, pretty much. And like you said, they tried to, scare us, and it didn't work.
Well, it was also to weaken our fleet because they needed to take the Philippine Islands, which they did immediately after. After the attack, they immediately started expanding because they needed more oil and they needed more iron. So there were several reasons that happened. As we literally just spoke, there was not one.
This is not just one.
Reason. Yeah. there were so many factors. One, just needing to expand.
I think our response was really violence, but maybe it was necessary. But at the same time, maybe we could have done it a different way.
Well, it was necessary. What makes no sense. So our reaction makes sense. Our reaction is very human, right? To go to war over it. And to be fair, we weren't just bombing any random village. We were actually legitimately trying to hunt down Osama bin Laden. What was weird is we had.
No, I was talking about with Japan. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, with Japan, too. We kind of had an idea what was going to happen. We didn't. It didn't absolutely surprise us, but we lost track of the fleet. We knew they had a fleet missing. And we knew an attack was going to be likely, but we didn't know exactly when. And someone who actually could have not stopped it, but could have prepared the alarms, on the radar, they saw the planes, but they thought it was just a big-ass flock of seagulls. They didn't even look. Because stuff like that happens.
Yeah. I like what he said. You're the reason why guns don't disappear from this country.
God damn.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I just I do feel like our response to Japan was pretty violent, but because they attacked a military base, we attacked 2 civilian cities.
No.
They weren't civilian cities? What did we attack?
They were civilians, but that's where they were producing their equipment. That's where they were producing the products.
So
we
attacked
their product line. We didn't. It wasn't just the city. We attacked the production line to hinder them as much as they had hindered us. As for the nuclear bombs, that was on civilian cities. If you're referring to the
yeah, that's what I
don't know what
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Yeah, so that was 2 completely opposite factors, though. We had done the math. We were going to beat them. They knew they were going to be beaten, but they were not going to surrender under any circumstance. They were going to fight to the death. Not just them, their women and their children too. Because they truly believed that they were indefeatable. And we had decided that better they die than our people die. Because people are going to die no matter what. The question was how many and how much. How many people died on D-Day? I want to look that up real fast. Google.
What can I move?
How many died on D-Day? So, 4,413 Allied troops were killed on D-Day, but reliable records of German fatalities are much harder to come by. Estimates range between 4,000 and 9,000. And that was just D-Day. That was when we landed on the beach of Omaha, and that's probably counting all of the Allied troops, and we landed all over the coast. And we were going to have to do the exact same thing if we wanted to take Japan by force physically. So, how many people died in Hiroshima? How many people directly died in Hiroshima?
How do I not do this anymore? Hey, I don't know how to do this.
So, when it came to Hiroshima, 66,000 died. In Nagasaki, 39,000 died. About the same portions were injured. Here's a big factor, though, what you don't know. Or maybe you do know. I don't know if you know this. We actually communicated what cities we were going to bomb. And we told them that we were going to bomb those cities. And the civilians were not allowed to leave the cities.
Huh.
Because they believed that the Americans wouldn't bomb civilians. Because we didn't want to. But Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not free of production lines either. Every city in Japan had a production line for the war effort.
Yeah, but even though at the end of the day it still is like I said, I know it was necessary, but it still sucks, Well, war sucks. I mean,
yeah, war sucks. Like that's the problem. Is it was more of the fact that if we and we don't know how many exactly would have died, but we do know everyone would have fought, and lots of people would have died. No matter what, lots of people were going to die. It was a world war, and Japan was refusing to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
So we showed them why they should really surrender, because then we nuked them. And they realized that they were vastly unprepared. And we needed them to realize that, because we didn't want to send more people in to die. And we didn't want to kill civilians. We just wanted the fucking war to be over. And when you have someone going, no, I'm gonna fight till my last breath, it's like, Fine, but you don't need to do that. And that's kind of the thing. Like, what do you do if you are in charge of a city or of a country, and you know you've won, but the enemy won't give up?
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Again, another juxtaposition. How quickly has Afghanistan fell back into the hands of those we thought we defeated?
Dang, they had this whole anti-gun thing, or not anti-gun. I wouldn't say that's anti-gun. Sorry, misspoke. It's just like what he said. Is what I'm trying to say. He was just like, remember, guns are for protection. They do not own you. What you were saying, sorry.
Oh no, I read that too. I was noticing that was kind of interesting, but you know, technically it's Japanese game, so it makes sense.
Oh, wait, what the exit. I think I'm supposed to exit.
No idea.
What does this do? And my controller's disconnecting again. Goddamn.
Well, they even called it a night. It is done.
Yeah, I don't want to get crazier into this thing. The funny thing is this game takes place during Christmas, so I find it very interesting that I'm playing it in December, so it fits the season, technically. Let me go find the save. I think it's over here. Oh my goodness. Well, we had some interesting conversations today. It was good. I enjoyed having you here again, as always, Nasota. I love hearing your conversations, what we have to talk about, because you're a great person to talk about stuff like this.
Oh, thank you. It had been so long, and I was like, oh, I actually have to stay off, so why not? Fuck it.
Hey.
We haven't talked in a while.
But alright then, well, you have a great night, sir, and everybody else, you guys also have a great night. I will see you guys possibly on Saturday. I think tomorrow I'll be busy, so I will see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.